And welcome to the Midday Show. Mark, that was a pretty crazy 24 hours.
Yes.
It has been a wild 24 hours. We had a hospital power outage last night that kind of shook the county. We also had a local school had a threat this morning that we're going to discuss. And then the shot basically heard around the world up in the northern tier last night at a Warrior Run Wellsboro basketball game. It might destroy democracy. I don't know if we'll be able to come to an agreement on this buzzer beater that was shot last night. We have video of it. I had the stopwatch out. I have done the full Mythbusters experiment.
You've done everything you could do
to try to figure out the answer to this buzzer beater against Warrior and Wellsboro. So we're going to dive into all of that today. And then last but not least, I'm going to tell you a little ditty I heard last night about why rock and roll died.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes. So we'll be right back with the Midday Show. I don't know where to start.
Well, I'm going to start with
Go
this.
ahead.
I want to explain to people before we get going, because we got a lot of interesting things to talk about.
Yeah.
How just another example of how mean you are to me. My computer, for whatever reason, came in the other day and I couldn't do the show because the audio and the video wouldn't work through the thing. So that's the other day I used your iPad.
Yes.
And today of course, because once you get through it, we did nothing to fix it. And then we showed up today and said, oh, we still have the same problem. And I just disappeared. Am I still there?
1 second. We'll see if you come back or not. If not, you're just going to have to come over here. You're going to have to join me today.
Because
we'll side by side on the Midday Show.
I'm getting a phone call. What if I dismiss the phone call? Will I come back?
That I don't.
Nope.
There you are.
Look at that. So if I go away, it's because I got a phone call. I'll dismiss it. So you said, oh my gosh, going back again. Here, I don't know if I can take it.
What, the phone call?
Yeah.
Do you need to take the phone call?
Yeah,
this is fantastic.
Kind of. So this is what happened. Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Here, I'll do it now. Am I back? Am I back? Am I back?
You're
okay,
back.
Can you hear me? So this is what happened. So Jeff's, because you're a tech guy and I'm not, you said, hey, can I can set it up through your phone.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, well, let's do that. We've never done it through my phone, but let's do it through my phone. He said, the only problem is you're going to have to go the whole show without looking at your phone. Correct. Other than now it's just like a camera.
Yeah.
And you just have to do this. You can't text. You can't get calls. You can't do anything. And I said, wow, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And you thought it was funny.
Yes.
And I don't. I think it's not funny.
I think it's funny because I actually don't think you're capable of doing it. I don't think you're going to get to the end of the show. I think the only way you're making it right now is that you actually got to see who was calling you. I think that's the only way you're making it through this. What do you want to start with the Montoursville school threat? Because you were kind of fired up about that a little bit. Let's talk about it.
There's a bomb threat at Montoursville High School today.
Yes.
So the high school kids got dismissed, which I have a kid in high school. He is far from distraught because it was early. They just got there. So anyway.
Let me interview you because this is going to go better. First, start off, tell me your opinion on bomb threats in today's world, because that's going to give people a better perception before we dive into something.
Yes, one of the things we'd said is the world is more violent now. There's more mass shootings, things like that. The whole assault rifle, debate and all that stuff. And it's hard to argue that the world is more violent now. However, before people start into this, oh, see, this is just another reflection of today's society. We had bomb scares in the 80s all the time. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the years when I was in high school, we had so many bombs, and by so many, I mean 4 or 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. But by the end of it, they weren't even sending kids and when it's warm, they send you out to the football field.
Sure.
In the winter, they're like, yeah, go to the gym. We checked the gym. There's no bomb there. So you go to the gym. The powers that be wander around the school. There was one, because I told you we were in the middle of a pre-calculus test.
Yeah.
That we were in class. Bomb scare happened. Got back to class before the period was over.
Sure.
So this whole we're bringing in dogs and has there ever been a legitimate bomb scare in a North Central Pennsylvania high school where they came in and found a bomb?
I would say no.
No. So,
it comes down to liability, right? Like everything else.
Yes.
It comes down to liability. We had talked about this before. So we had posted on the site, and I think this is what we eventually want
This
to
is
talk
the top.
about. So we had posted on the website the email that the school had sent out, and we're guesstimating. We figure that between every single kid in the school, you figure most kids have two parents. If not, they have one guardian. We figured this email went to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people.
Yes.
This email notifying parents and different guardians of Montoursville High School students of where their students were going to be moved to.
Correct.
And we shared this information, and I said, it's one conversation is kind of like, how serious is the threat? How serious should you take these threats? Is it just a liability thing? We're going to set that a conversation to the side for a second, because the conversation that we're having now is there were some people upset that we shared where the students were going to be moved to a public forum. And our debate or our argument in here in the room with us and some of our employees and partners here at North Central PA is something that's sent to 500 to 1,000 people, private information. Like once you send out like a letter, an email, whatever it may be, once you send that out to 500, 1,000 people, I don't know if it's private anymore. Like I feel like it's public information.
Well, that is one aspect of the debate. The other debate I had from the common sense aspect is it's not like these people are like in the witness protection program or we're trying to rush them to a safe house where like there was a threat at the school. They needed to move them to another building.
Mm-hmm.
And it was close and it was available. And so we published it. And people like, how you just put the children at risk because you told everyone where they are. Everybody knows where they are every day of the week. They're in school. So like in every school district, in every, like where the children are is not a secret.
Sure.
Tonight during sporting events on Friday night, you want to know where the basketball team is, the football team is, the whatever. It's public knowledge.
Yeah.
And to think like pick your district, any district in where are the middle school kids going to be next Tuesday at the middle school.
I want you to keep going. We also would like to say, if you have a different opinion, please comment. Like, please share with us because we're open to it. And we had a full-fledged discussion this morning about kind of like this new world that we live in, where like I think maybe 20 years ago it would have been more private information, right? Because not everyone has a phone that's
everything's shareable now.
Everything's shareable now, and so it does bring up the question of like, obviously you're trying to take the threat seriously, right? Like you want to inform people where their kids are going. You want to inform people that this is the information we have. And so you think you're sharing this information. I personally was surprised at the backlash that we got for telling people where they could find their kids, like for trying to give information to them that most, 500, 1,000 people within the community already have. So so if you have a varying opinion, please share it because I'm very curious.
Why not? Like I have a kid in the school.
That was two people that were in here talking about it had students that were being moved. So
and I was just like to be in this. I'm not trying to be flip because kids go to school. It's cold today, and it was just warm yesterday.
Yeah,
whenever it was,
mm-hmm.
because kids go to school in shorts. I went to school in shorts because I thought, and my mom used to always say it's cold outside, and I would say my classes are all indoors today. There's a part of me that says that the greatest danger that these kids were in today was walking in shorts and t-shirts from the school to the church. And I get
it but that's because your mentality of there's been so many bomb threats and you yourself went through school bomb threats. So your mentality of the threat is what's that? I don't know if I had a single bomb threat,
really?
but I was up north, small school. I don't know if we ever had like a true bomb threat. I'm sure like we did drills and different things like that. And certainly we had moments where like we had to empty out the building for different reasons, but I don't know if it was ever truly
that would
like
be interesting. And I even said one of the issues about when I was young is when you were young. Now everything's digital. I think it's way easier. There, I got another call. Hold on. There it goes. It's way easier. Am I back yet? It's way easier to trace calls now than it was. At least it seemed difficult to trace calls back then. So I don't know if that has maybe that would be an interesting topic for people of my generation. I thought everybody had them. I thought it was
just like common occurrence.
It's like fire drills. Yeah. Like twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, you have a fire drill.
Right.
Every now and then you have a bomb scare. I just don't understand.
Sharon shared with us the people who was sent to were the parents. I initially had put the location in my post on the MASD page and decided it shouldn't be posted. Thank you for sharing. I'm trying to get that out. Thank you for sharing with us. I think it goes back to kind of, I think it's a fair discussion. Like, I think I said to you, how many of those kids had their phones and were probably letting somebody know, right? Letting a parent know, letting a sibling know, like letting somebody know where they were being moved to. It's just a different world, and I don't know how to gauge protecting the kids versus what is also public information now.
You would have to think that, well, first of all, I think it's bunk. I assume it was a kid who was
move that aside.
Okay.
Because whether or not it's a threat is a completely different conversation.
And I get that. The only way you would have to think that this is a problem is if it was something personal and it was something about one of these kids or these kids that they were trying to flush them out of the school and move them to a different location. And if you were really, if it like, I just don't, it's like, I was just talking to someone last night, the Odyssey of the Mind competitions that you're aware of. You know where it's either the national finals or the world finals. You know where they are this year? Of course you don't, because why would you know? But I'll tell you, they're at Michigan State.
Okay.
And my first thought was, ooh. And then my second thought is there will be no safer place on campus for the rest of the season, the rest of the year than Michigan State. So to think that, like, it's not like these kids left the school screaming and people were waiting outside in camouflage. Like, I'm sure there were police everywhere.
Sure.
So like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I don't get the danger. This is not a movie where we're trying to, shuttle people, or like we're trying to get Elvis out of the building and into the tour bus and there's a screaming mob outside.
Yeah. I think your point to whether or not, like, the world we live in and the society we live in and whether or not it's a threat, I think to your point, more times than not, these end up being debunked.
Not more times than not.
Yes.
I think every time in central Pennsylvania. In my 51 years, I've never heard anyone found a bomb.
I understand that. You and I agree, though, it's 100% a liability thing. The first time you don't do something, it's a problem.
Oh, the school has to do it. No doubt.
Correct. So you and I both agree on that. Like, you have to do something, you have to move them. The interesting thing here is, when you send out an email to 500 parents, like, and again, we're assuming these numbers just based off of the enrollment of Montourzo. Right. I'm guessing it's somewhere between 500 to 1,000 people got this email.
Right.
Once you send that email, though, like, are we all in the assumption that, like, that is private information and no one is sharing this? Like, are we still living 20 years back where when we think we send something out like that it is not public information once it gets past? What is the number that you have to send out to people where it's no longer a private issue? Because if the kids' if their safety is really an issue, like if they are in serious jeopardy, I don't know if sending out an email, regardless of whether they're parents or not, I don't know if sending out an email to that many people and telling them where they're going if they're really in jeopardy is a good idea too, because you don't know who's calling in the bomb threat.
Correct.
So there's just so many layers and elements to this. And I understand parents love their kids and they want their kids to be protected. They want their kids to be safe. So I would not, anybody who gave us backlash today, I get it. Like, I'm not upset at you for giving us backlash. Like, yeah, you're the opposite. You don't understand it. I'm not giving anybody a hard time if you gave us backlash today. I do think, though, if you sit down and you really think about the world we live in now and how information spreads, I think there's way more value to being able to share the information to people that this is where your kid is and the school believes they're safe enough that we can send them there than there is to, like, acting as if there's no value in keeping it a secret.
Right. Well,
that's my opinion.
My to strip it all the way down to the studs. It's people think that the kids are in danger because we shared where the kids were going, where the kids were going to be. And I'm telling you that everyone in society knows where the kids are every day. Well, every weekday. Every school day, they know the schools are full of kids. So I don't know how that unless you think that this is a credible threat and that these kids were really in danger.
But my point is, I would go, if that's the case, like, if you really think the kids are in danger, and maybe they did, like, who knows? If you really think the kids are in danger, like, I understand, like, because they're minors and you have to notify the guardians and everything else. But like once you do that, I mean, the cap is off. Like the idea that this information is going to stay private and no one's going to know where these kids are going, I just don't. It's just not the world we live in. So this is a very unique and fascinating
just imagine
topic.
this? Let me jump in. If they really thought that this was a threat and people were in danger, do you know how many police would have been there?
No, I get that. I think you're trying to sell me on whether or not it's a threat or not. And I don't think you need to sell me on that. You and I both agree that most of the times these are not actual threats.
Not most.
The problem though is the first time you don't do something,
I get it.
You're done
I get
for.
It. But I don't understand. Like the people like, you told them where they moved the kids to. We tell them where the kids are every day.
Right.
They know where the kids are every day. If someone really wanted to bomb, to do harm to these kids, they would have figured out a way to put a bomb in the high school. They wouldn't have lied about putting a bomb in the high school and then said, we'll move them to a different look. Like it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's an interesting conversation.
But it is the aspect, not to interrupt you, but I just did, the aspect of what becomes public knowledge and what doesn't in the world of, because I read a Facebook post just scrolling through back when I was allowed to use my phone, and now that I'm not. But when I was scrolling through my phone, I read just a dad who posted on Facebook they evacuated the school and where the kids went to.
Right.
And when you talk about between 500 and 1,000, we're talking about parents. Because general ballpark Mentors was 150 kids per grade. So 4 grades, we got 600. But that's not counting the 600 kids who didn't get an email. They were just told.
Right.
And they're texting. I mean, how many people are they texting? How many kids are sitting in a classroom at Jersey Shore going, my buddy from Mentoursville got to go home already?
I guess that's what I'm saying is I don't blame parents for worrying about their kids' safety. Like anybody who messaged us today and were worried about their kids' safety, I get that. I would just say, like, for me, being able to sit back and look from the outside, the cap is off. Like that, it's just between phones and emails and everybody being connected today. It's just the idea that this was like a private thing or this was something, I just can't imagine I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine that. Vicky, if someone called in a threat to flush out a child or a person, it doesn't matter where the person is going. The idea was to get them out of the school. That's interesting as well. Laura, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, it depends where the threat came from, but yeah.
You're having a hard time contextualizing the idea like that you have to treat it like a threat. Because I don't think anyone.
No. I'm not saying that.
I know you're not saying that.
I'm not that even though I understand you have to treat it like a threat, it's not.
Exactly. And now you're having a hard time talking about it in that context.
I'm having a tough time talking with anyone who said, "Oh my God, I'll bet there might have been a bomb in the school." Like from the school district, you're like, all right, we've got to react. But from anyone outside the school district, if someone called me and like I don't want to pick one, XYZ district, someone called in a bomb scare. Guess what? There was no bomb because history tells me there hasn't been one. I don't think they've ever found.
But no one's disputing that. Like
these people are. These people think that the kids were in real danger.
No.
And that's why disclosing their location extends the danger.
I don't think it's about people not understanding the odds. I think it's about like once you go down this road and it's like, okay, there's a bomb threat. We are now going to treat it like one. The question then becomes, what is now the protocol in 2023? Because in 2003, if someone wanted to make the argument to me that like, hey, you probably shouldn't share that because it might, then I'd be like, oh, you know what? Like that in 2023, every single one of those kids has a device, has a phone, is reaching out, is messaging somebody, is telling somebody where they're going. What's that? Like, so that is the part that like, once we decide, okay, we have to treat every bomb threat the same because of liability issues, then it is, what is the protocol? In 2023, our protocol should be different than in 2003. That's what I am saying. I felt like there were a lot of people today that treated the process of information, the gathering and the sharing of information like it was 2003, and they got upset like it was 2003. And in 2023, the gathering and process of information being shared, it's just not, it's not the same. It's not going to be the same.
I get that. I get that. My aspect is the people who think that we, by posting this, or by anyone, not just us, by anyone who posted and shared this information on Facebook or Instagram or text or anything that they did,
right?
That they, either increased the danger that these kids were in or extended the danger that these kids were in. And I say they were in no danger anyway.
I would also say, and again, I know people don't love to give people credit, and we weren't in the room, so this is all assumption. I would like to think that most school districts would not share the location if they themselves thought that the kids were in danger. To me, as a parent, and I'm not a parent, I would have been almost relieved at the fact that they are willing to say where my kid is going, because that tells me how they deem the how much danger my kid is in.
Well,
if they're like not telling me where my kid is, or the school's in lockdown, then I'm kind of like, this is bad. If they're like, we're moving your kid to here, they're going to be excused from there, then I'm kind of like, okay, this is protocol. This is just a liability thing, and they're just saying. And so I don't know. Like, I, as a parent, I would have been comforted by the fact that it was public information and emails and online of where my kid was going.
Well,
but I'm different. Like I said, I'm not a parent, and there are other parents who didn't feel that way, and I get that.
One of the reasons that I'm so comfortable in discussing this is of all the schools in our, how many high schools are in North Central PA? We counted one time, 60 something.
Yeah, it's almost 60.
We have a lot of all the schools, and not just the school districts, of one building. There's elementary schools, there's middle schools. The one building there's a bomb is one my kid was there. So for anyone out there, it's like, well, you don't know because your kid, my kid was there.
Right.
And our news director, who just sat over here when we were having the discussion, her kid was there. So like, that is one thing that people are like, you don't know how to. I do. I actually probably do more than most of the people that are commenting. I'm sure there's people from Toursville that are commenting, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't.
It was interesting. As a resident,
and it goes back to the point of the world announces where these kids are every day.
Oh, I get that point. That point you're making, I get. Like, I don't think you're crazy for thinking that way. I agree with that mindset. As a resident of Montoursville, but not a parent of a school-age child, I knew about it by 9:56 a.m. I received a text from another non-parent. It was out there where they were going within minutes. So, I don't know. It feels a little bit like public information if we're having that debate. Why does Mark look like a post-race car NASCAR driver sipping his Coke? Did you have Coke over there? Oh, you were sipping on your Coke over there.
I do.
What do you want to dive into? You want to go to the buzzer beater?
Well, that makes me feel good because they only show the post-NASCAR drivers who win. They don't show the guy who took 17.
No, they do not. Do you want to dive into the buzzer beater?
Unless he's the guy that the wreck in turn 3 on the last lap. Then show him.
Yes, you either have to royally mess up or you have to win. Go ahead.
Well, you're from up. You have to know a little bit about NASCAR, right?
I know the basics. Yes.
I do too, because my dad was a NASCAR. Well, is a NASCAR fan. So I will say, of all the sports, the one thing that I do not understand about NASCAR drivers is how there are not more fights in the pits every week.
It's if
you. Like as a basketball player, if you get down and it's a back and forth game and whatever, and your teammate, misses a layup or, misses both free throws, like there are other people that can cause you to lose when you play well. But if I'm a driver, if I'm at Daytona and I've gone 198 laps, I can only imagine the physical and mental fatigue that driving at that speed, with that kind of attention, that you have to be laser focused for that long, and then some moron who's trying to get to the front thinks they can go right through me.
Right.
That would be, and you go from like, oh, you're going to be a top 10, top 5 finish. Oh, now you're 27. Because Ned put you into the wall. I would think there would be pit crew brawls.
It's gotten worse. Like it has certainly rose in tension, without a doubt.
Could you imagine?
I cannot.
Like doing everything right.
I am trying to keep us on a clock. Are you ready for this
yes.
video?
All right, let's go.
You have seen this, correct?
I have seen this.
I just want to make sure before I show it. So we are going to show you the buzzer beater from last night. Thank you to Wellsboro homepage. If you're not following them on Facebook and you want to follow them, go for it. I'm using their video because they had the clearest angle of this. So just to put in the context, Wellsboro was the number 2 seed. Warrior Run was the number 7 seed. Wellsboro had a 2-point lead. We believe there was 1.4 seconds to go on the clock.
It was 1 point something.
And this kid from Warrior Run hits one of the greatest shots that I have ever seen. The debate will follow, but let's just get this out of the way first. Before we get to the debate, one in 10,000, one in 100,000, one in a. I mean, this shot is, regardless of whether you're from Wellsboro Warrior Run, good or bad, just looking at the shot itself, I think it might be like a 1 in 100,000.
It's a lot.
I mean, it's a
All
lot.
right,
So I'm gonna pull this down here. We're gonna add this to the stream, hopefully. All right, so here we go.
So here, to set the stage, okay, go ahead. Oh, is it jumping?
It is a crazy shot. Okay, we're going to leave it on the dog pile there for now. Okay, now, is that not? It's a dog pile. Is that not a dog pile?
I don't know why. I don't know why. I've never seen a collection of dogs like that.
With that being said, I had numerous texts. So last night, I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm thinking my phone starts going wild. And I'm thinking two things have happened. Either Loyal Sock had a big W, because that's my phone will go off if they have a big W, or Loyal Sock had a loss, because my phone will go off if Loyal Sock had a loss. Okay. I basically get messages whenever something happens to Loyal Sock. Loyal Sock played Southern Columbia last night. My phone starts going off. It's like 8:15. It's like 10 different messages in less than a minute. And I'm thinking to myself, like, either something great or something bad happened to Loyal Sock. And I get my phone out, and it is all Warrior Run Wellsboro basketball, and it is this shot. My initial gut reaction was, I didn't think he got it off in time. What was your gut reaction? Just gut.
When I first saw it, and I saw the Wellsboro homepage version, I thought it was a mite late.
Okay, so.
But it's close.
So, well, we're going to dive into this. So then I went and found the NFHS network one, which is the one that we shared on NorthcentralPa.com. Right. If you slow that one down, like frame for frame, with the sound, he got it off. Now, I will clarify by saying that doesn't mean that that is correct, because audio, streaming, video, audio, one could lag, one could be ahead. It does not mean just because on one video versus the other. But on the NFHS one, if you slow it down frame for frame, he gets it out of his hands before the buzzer sounds off. So then I started using the Wellsboro homepage one, which is the one we just watched. If you watch the Wellsboro homepage one and you go frame for frame with the audio, it almost looks like baseball, bang, bang, runner. I mean, it is close. It is really, really, really close. So I got a stopwatch out, and I actually started going from the moment that the ball is touched on the play until it leaves his hand. I did this 5 different times, okay? The first time I did it, I got 1.71. Now, again, our understanding is that there was 1.4 seconds left on the clock, okay? From the time it touches him, not the clock at the game, from the time it touches him on the screen, bounces twice, pick up and heave, I got 1.71. I then got 1.61 the second time.
Because you're getting quick.
Yeah, because I knew what was going to happen. So then I said to myself, okay, what's the fastest I can get it? Like, what is, like, if I'm on top of it, the fastest I ever got was 1.56. So what this means is it was probably not possible for him by the laws of physics to do all of this in 1.4. Ball hitting, ball bouncing. What's it? 1.4 is what the NFHS network showed on the little scoreboard. But again, this isn't at the game. Gotcha. So it was probably physically improbable for him to do this in 1.4. But here's, again, what you have to remember. The clock person is a person. They're not a robot. They're not a machine. And I know what's coming. Like, I'm sitting there with the stopwatch, and as soon as I'm like, boom, the clock person doesn't know what's about to happen. There's going to be a gap between the ball actually touching somebody and the clock actually starting. So then when you start to think about the math of it, like whether it was 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, I never got higher than 1.71. So at a maximum 1.7 from the time it touched till it left his hand. I mean, 1.4 on the clock, by the time it hits somebody, the clock guy actually pushes the button. Could he have gotten it off? Yes. Like, he definitely could have.
And here's the other thing, as you know, but the clock operator is not supposed to watch the ball. The clock operator, the referee will stand, all the officials will stand with their hand in the air.
Correct.
And when the ball is touched, they pull their hand down, and that is the signal to start the clock.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the NFL with the delay of game, as they talk about in technical. The referee, the clock operator is supposed to watch the official's hand. As you see that the official has his hand up back there. Oh, and I didn't see that guy put his hand down. I don't know. But anyway, it's so super close. It sucks to lose that way. It sucks to lose. It's great to win.
Can I paint a picture real quick? Because you
can do whatever you want. Because I can't scroll through my phone because it's propped up here.
Well, because I've said before, like sport, the reason I love sports is because it's real drama. Like it's real. Here's the things for the storylines in case people don't know. Wellsboro lost in the first round of districts last year. It was almost a half-court buzzer beater to Southern Columbia.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes. Now. So this isn't a team that like hasn't experienced this before. Literally almost to the day, the Wellsboro Hornets experienced the same thing last year. Yeah,
that's more than snake.
And now it's like happening again to them. So you add that, and you and I have talked about it. Wellsboro plays hard. Like they play so hard. It's unbelievable. So that is like a whole separate storyline for the Wellsboro Hornets. You just went through this last year. A year later, it happens again to you on maybe the most improbable shot. I don't know if I've seen a shot in District 4 as improbable as this one.
It's bizarre. Yes.
The other storyline to this too is Warrior Run. I watched this now probably close to 50 times. My favorite thing near the end was to watch Warrior Run celebrate, because this is a program that they just kept chugging away. They kept trying to do the right things, and they are finally being rewarded for it.
Didn't they win one game last year? I thought last year, I thought they were 1-21.
That might be the case.
Now they have a 6'6" kid.
They have a freshman that's going to be very good. Yeah.
So obviously last year he was in 8th grade and he couldn't help him. But I think they were bad last year, whether it was one win or not, but they didn't have many.
No, the point that you're adding on to is this is a group that if you went through the teams that have probably been mercy ruled the most in the last like 5 to 6 years, it might be Warrior Run. And so to watch a program that had just kept chugging along and kept showing up and Wortman does a nice job and to watch them get a moment where all of a sudden it was like something went right for them. You know what I mean? Like this is something that most teams don't really get to celebrate or ever get to do. It was really neat to watch their coaching staff, their players, their fans. You could almost kind of see it was like, I can't believe this is happening.
Right.
Like so you just add all of those storylines up on top of it. A couple of just like minor things because we're basketball fanatics. The referees, they never got together afterwards. Now the one referee, he is very.
It's one guy's call.
It is that referee is very kind of like yes and if you watch him, he was watching the whole time. Hand goes up. It goes in. He is like emphatically kind of like, yep, like this is what's happening. I have seen times where refs get together because no one wants to do it.
No one wants to make a call.
No one wants to be the person to kind of. So I understand that there's going to be half of the people are upset because the referee was so emphatic. As someone who has been in situations where none of the referees are sure or emphatic, I would rather have somebody kind of be like,
right,
this is what we're doing. Again, I wrote down the odds of making that shot. I think it's 1 in 100,000. I mean, maybe it's 1 in
100,000 might be high, but
you think so?
It's.
I mean, he's going his momentum's going the opposite way. He's scooping it up like he's not expecting it to happen.
But he got planted and he turned and he fired. I don't know. It's not 100,000, but it's a lot.
It's possible.
A couple of my immediate thoughts is the people who are going to say like, well, this is what Wellsboro should have done. Like, as you said, it's absurd that they lost. Like if stuff like this is going to happen. Well, the other thing I say about the clock when you get, well, I have 2 more points. The clock, when you're like, well, it was 1.4, it's 1.6. When you think of through the entire 4th quarter, which is all that would have mattered, every stoppage and startage and stoppage and startage, to say that it's that accurate to 0.2 of a second is crazy. And in a shot like that, obviously, if you're the ref or you're anyone involved, if you see it was on time or it was late and you want to make the right call if it's the right call. If we're watching it as close as we are with replay, like you said, with knowing what's coming, and we can't really tell,
Right.
then don't you reward the kid that made the three-quarter court
I don't
shot?
know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if I agree with you. Not because, like what you're saying, tie goes to the runner is what you're saying.
Right.
I don't
Which is not a real baseball rule, but anyway.
I get it. I don't know. I don't know how what I would rather do is I would rather know that the ref did his best and he made the call that he thought was best.
Well, don't get me wrong.
And
when the ball's in the air, the referee thought he got it off. The
That's what I'm
referee's
saying.
like, not like, well, let's see.
No,
It went in, we'll give it to him.
You're asking me, don't you think you give it to him essentially? Like if it's
Well,
that
no.
close, don't you give it to him?
I'm saying in hindsight, as we look at the whole situation, when it's so close you can't tell, wouldn't it be almost criminal to take it away from the kid?
I don't know. I don't think so because, again, I think it comes down – I just want the referee to do what he thought was best.
Well, and he did.
Yes, but that's not the question you asked me.
I'm looking at it from a different – I'm not looking at it from the referee's decision. I'm looking at it from like society's decision.
And what I would say is the society of Wellsboro would strongly disagree with.
Well, I get because it's happened to him. But
correct.
This is what I have this happen to me in Little League all the time when I'm umpiring Little League. And the people are like, he was safe by a mile. And I say like, well, whichever he was, it wasn't by a mile. So he might have been out, he might have been safe, but it was super close. And there is no one who watches this who can say, oh, it was clearly. At least I don't think so. It is super, super close.
Can we dive into just some coaching things? I know that you probably don't.
Yeah, go ahead, because I got like 3 phone calls I have to return.
Okay, here's just some coaching things, and I will give this disclaimer like I always do. Coaching is impossible. It's really hard.
Yes.
You're standing on a sideline and you're letting teenagers physically and mentally decide if you are successful or not. Coaching is borderline impossible. Okay, so I just want to say that as a disclaimer before we talk about some of the stuff. Some people were complaining about is that really the best inbounds play? I will say most coaches will tell you if the play doesn't work and you don't have any timeouts, throw it high and deep. And if it gets deflected, time goes off the clock, we win. If not, they have to throw up a Hail Mary. Anybody who today is kind of like, that's your best play, I would just say to them, this is my opinion, this is a 1 in 100. I don't even 1 in 100,000. You think maybe closer to like 10,000. Yeah. I think this is like a 1 in 100,000 shot. That means that 999,000 times, nobody is saying anything about the inbounds play.
I was thinking about a similar situation in my head, just because that's what coaches do. And the last thing I would say to my inbounder is, if you get stuck, just throw it deep.
Yeah.
So when this happens, I feel bad for anybody being criticized in Wellsboro, because this is exactly what every other, I think like every other coach, but 99% of the coaches would say the same thing.
I think most coaches would do what all of us would do the same thing. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell you this is the play I would have.
We're going to try to get it.
This is my favorite play. This is what I would use to get the ball in bounds because this is what I like to do. The second thing we would then tell you is, listen, once they break the huddle, like you're just kind of holding your breath. And like the play works or it doesn't work. The kids either make a play or they don't make a play. And it is, so I don't know. I do think there's an aspect there where I get we all like to think what we would do in that scenario. Right. The funny thing though is like most coaches would tell you to throw it deep. If nothing else was going to happen, throw it into the other side of the court.
And what are the odds?
And guess what? The odds hit this one time.
Yeah, like
they just did. So that was the one thing that I wanted to mention too. Anything else about the game? There's a lady on this video who's getting a lot of flack. I don't get it. I don't think anybody should get any flack for the way. I mean, that was astonishing.
Oh, because there's a lady when you watch it, her face is in the reaction and she's distraught.
Sure.
But she wasn't giving middle fingers. She was just like, she was crestfallen, might be an exaggeration. But I'm guessing her kid was a player and it was just like, oh my gosh. Especially, I hadn't thought of last year until you brought it up. This is 2 years in a row for them. And it's in the second round. If this is in the semis, you still get a consolation game. You still have a chance to go to the state playoffs.
No, this is the second in a row.
This is a lose and go home round.
Yes.
And they have been
2 years in a row. They have had the lead and they have been sent home not thinking. They left the huddle. Their last huddle of the season, 2 seasons in a row, they left the huddle thinking we have at least 2 more, maybe 3 more games.
And this, yeah,
and it turned out it was over less than a minute
tie
later.
that went to a loss. It was a win that went to a loss, and it's awful.
It's
awful.
just when you add
it's
it all
awful
together,
unless you're on the other side, then it's great.
Well, that's why I said to you, eventually, once I got past the dynamic, like the basketball part of it, and I just started looking at Warrior Run, it's all like I'm trying to, because I don't mean to be rude at all when I say this. It's like watching people who just can't believe something good is happening.
Right.
And it is, and again, like you have to know Warrior Run's story to understand this is a miracle for anybody. For Warrior Run, this is like Jesus came down from the sky and like touched the basketball. You don't think so?
No.
Really?
No, but
you go through Warrior Run just went through for the last decade, and you tell me that that's not how they feel.
I'm with you.
It's an incredible play, an incredible story. Okay. Anything else before we have to go today? I will save the music thing for the next.
Yeah,
one.
We need to save that, and I gotta make some phone calls. But
because that's really interesting.
It has been. I do want to. Ooh, what happened?
We're fine.
Are we there? Oh, okay. Yeah, it is. I never remember a February where it's been this warm. And then turned around and been this, and it's supposed to be cold. Like this is a normal February day.
Yeah.
The only reason we're complaining about it is because it was just 55 yesterday and it was 70 today.
When I looked though, I think it's like the next week or so, we're kind of like in the 30s. Like it's your typical grungy end of February, early March. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But we've been so spoiled. I never remember February like this.
Yeah. I think, what's funny, I'm going to get a lot of flack because we didn't really decide if the shot was good or not.
I don't think you can tell. I mean, how often do you watch a lot of college basketball? Mm-hmm. How often do you watch college basketball and you see one and you have an immediate opinion?
Sure.
But then you go and that red light around the school, and then it becomes clear as day because they have super.
But I think that's what's unique about this is I originally had said the first couple of times I watched it, I said, there's no way you could deflection, bounce, pick up heave in 1.4. I was like, it's not possible in 1.4. And then I started doing the stopwatch. And I never got higher than 1.7. I got down to 1.5, like when and so then I started to think to myself, well, like, you're not going to hit the clock right away. All of a sudden you add a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 till they finally hit the clock. Well, now you're up to 1.8, right? And so then I was then I went from in my head thinking you can't possibly do all of that in 1.4 to now all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I'm kind of like, maybe like depending on when you push the clock, you kind of could. It's really close.
It's tough. And again, as I was saying with all the stuff, with every stoppage and startage in the fourth quarter, maybe there should have been 2.1. Maybe there should have been none. Maybe that extra second should have been, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I can understand why.
Really
it would be awful if it was clear that it was late and some team got screwed.
The more I watch it, the less I'm sure.
I agree. It is so close.
That's the weird part about it.
It is so close. It is. I understand why the Wellsboro kids are heartbroken, but it's close. I would not want to have made that call.
Yeah. No.
And as I said, from a guy who's officiating, like I really umpire Little League is what I do a lot. You have no idea how many times that there's a big situation and it's 3-2 and there's 2 outs, and as the umpire, you're just sitting there and all you're thinking is, please swing, please swing, please swing. Because if he swings, I don't have to make a call.
Sure.
And if he takes, now it's all. So when that guy fired it up, every ref on the court was thinking, please don't go in.
Sure.
And when so anyway.
I give, again, I'm not saying he made the right call. I don't know if we'll ever know if he actually made the right call.
We'll never know.
But he did what you are trained to do.
He did it well.
He watched the shot, and once he decided that the shot beat the buzzer, one arm went up, and he waited, and it was so it's not, sometimes for me, it's not about the right or wrong call. Like, did you just try? Like, did you do the things that I feel like you should have tried to make the right choice? I've watched this video over 50 times, and I do feel like he tried. Like, there's no doubt in my mind he tried.
And you watched it 50 times, you still can't tell if he got it off or not.
No, you can't. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina.
And I'm never doing this show through my phone again.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. We'll see you on Monday.